Paradigm Review Show. Welcome to the channel. Today we're covering the Kumite, the most legendary fight to the death tournament. That's why I have my Conor McGregor shirt on for the President of Ireland. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Pixie, Slippy. Yeah, I don't know. Slip, you're probably gonna watch on. You're probably gonna want to watch on mute if you want to stay in the chat, because once we get to plot, we're gonna go through some things that Gaz and I have to deconstruct from this legendary film. We're currently dual streaming on Mosh Shinobi. Go subscribe over there. What up, guys? How you been?
Yeah, not bad, man. I'm pretty pumped for today and for the next numerous reviews and 900 million things that we've got planned. So yeah, good to go, man.
Yeah, most of it is like behind the scenes and difficult planning, and we can't think of it when we need to update on the channel. But except there shouldn't be anything new if you're a subscriber here. I'll start off with the one thing that Gaz and I are capable of, which is thinking 1 week into the future. Next week, we're going to be doing Havoc with Tom Hardy, directed by Gareth Evans, a new Netflix drop. It should be sick. Gaz, I heard that Striking Rescue is on demand now. So right after this, I'm going to go check it. I think it's on Scamazon, but I don't know because our countries are different, blah, 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 tariffs, blah, blah, blah. So I thought I saw it on YouTube, but I don't know. So it might either be on YouTube or Scamazon Slime. So Gaz and I are going to work on getting Striking Rescue screened, and as soon as we do, we'll get it into the schedule, and it should be sick. It's the new Tony Jaa drop. So
yeah,
a couple more subs popping in. Thank you, Pixie. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
So let's do synopsis. Bloodsport, 1988. The semi-true story. We'll get into it when we talk production and all that. About the semi-autobiographical life of Frank Dukes, who is like an American ninjutsu pioneer. Obviously, Jean-Claude Van Damme, one of his kind of like leading man roles. I'm probably more of a JCVD fan than I am a Bloodsport fan, but I mean, there's some absolute, obviously Bolo Young. I mean, Gaz will get into it. He arguably knows the film better than I do at this point. But some amazing, cameos. There's just a lot there. I do like the whole Tanaka clan thing, the kind of, and then obviously Hong Kong. I mean, we'll get into it when we talk production. The first American film produced in Hong Kong, and it actually made a lot of money given by the guys. I don't know if you saw that when you're reading. So there's some cool stuff here, guys. So they call it B action, biography, drama, sport. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna say Bloodsport is a grindhouse film, despite the soundtrack. You know what I mean? It's still a grindhouse film. Gaz and I will get into that when we talk production. So synopsis. Bloodsport follows Frank Dukes, an American martial artist serving in the military who decides to leave the army to compete in martial arts tournament in Hong Kong, where fights to the death can occur. And I want to shout out, you guys can watch it free on Tubi. That's where I watched it. And a lot of this stuff is in the movie section on YouTube, guys. We don't check every single one, but like a lot of these retro films are there. Before Gaz sets us off, I just wanted to find quickly, because Gaz and I purposely did this right around now. So the release date is April 29th, 1988. So we're a week early. We had it for next week, but then we realized Havoc was coming out. So we figured cover Havoc when it drops. So we moved it up 1 week. Bloodsport, baby.
Definitely. Quick, Slips just dropped something real quick. I'll answer that right now. Yeah, American Samurai, that stars David Bradley from the American Ninja movies. They did release a director's cut. We'd have to do a whole other show on that. To be honest, I'd seen the film anyway, and I don't know if the release differed on this side of the pond, but I didn't really see that many differences because the violence wasn't edited out maybe on this side. Right. But it is a good movie. It's essentially Bloodsport with weapons. But it's a decent movie. It's got Mark Dacascos in as well. So yeah. But Bloodsport, I want to put this disclaimer out right now, folks. We are looking at this from the filmmaking standpoint. We aren't getting into whether the semi-biography on Frank Dukes is accurate or not, because we are just looking at it as in the film. So I want to get that out straight away. The opening scene, Ross, I noticed the parallel with the way it opens on Enter the Dragon as well, where you see Hong Kong. I just wondered if you caught that.
No, I mean, I did have Enter the Dragon vibes. We'll get to it later during the chase scene, like when they ran across the little boats
Yeah.
and the cops fell in the water and stuff. So yeah, I definitely. I mean, I guess just watching a Hong Kong movie gets you that vibe. Because now that you say it, I thought the big thing was Enter the Dragon was the first American production in Hong Kong, but now they're saying this was, and Enter the Dragon was obviously before this, right?
Yeah. So I'm sure it was, because Enter the Dragon, it got the theatrical release, didn't it? And it obviously that was like
73, so it's like over 10 years before Bloodsport.
Yeah.
But if you're an Enter the Dragon fan, we do have it coming up in the PXF Classics schedule. I think you would probably like Bloodsport. I mean, Enter the Dragon's a bit more hardcore than Bloodsport is, but
yeah. So as Ross rightly said, it is a classic, known for various reasons. The soundtrack as well.
Yeah, some intentional, some unintentional.
Yeah.
Kumite. Man, we got to get that song. I'll have to play in the background for you guys.
I'll have to remix that, dude, as I'm learning mixing now. I'll have to drop a remix.
I'm going to pop the speaker on when we go at the outro and see if we can spin it on YouTube for the audience. It's a fire classic.
Yeah. So Crown Freeman is dope. Slip.
Yeah, the Cascos is in everything, by the way, but he's goated. Warrior, John Wick.
Yeah. As usual, I'm actually trying to steer us on topic here. So Bloodsport follows Frank Dukes, an American martial artist serving in the military who I guess goes AWOL to compete in an underground fight tournament known as the Kumite. And Dukes' character, and we'll get more into this, is doing this to honor his adopted father and the Tanaka clan. So that's the whole reason for him going to Hong Kong, and then we get some flashbacks which we'll cover in a moment, a bit of the background on his character, his training. So that's centrally the whole kind of premise of the film. And anything you want to come in with on that, Ross?
I mean, I can jump in on plot, or I can respond to that, whichever you prefer. This is a 50-50 Mosh Shinobi production on this stream, as we know from both channels. Okay, so going to the wiki, U.S. Army Captain Frank Dukes has trained in the ways of ninjutsu under his sensei Senzo Tanaka. As a boy, Dukes and some of his friends broke into Tanaka's home. This was what Gaz was alluding to steal a katana, but Dukes was apprehended while returning the katana to its place. Impressed by Dukes' integrity and toughness, Senzo decided to train him alongside his son Shingo. After Shingo's death, Senzo trains Dukes as a member of the Tanaka clan. Dukes is invited to the Kumite, an illegal martial arts tournament in Hong Kong. After his army superiors refuse to let him go, Dukes goes absent without leave, says goodbye to his sensei, and leaves for Hong Kong. 2 criminal investigative command agents, Helmer and Rollins, are assigned to track down and arrest Dukes. After arriving in Hong Kong, Dukes befriends American Valley Tudor fighter Ray Jackson and their guide Victor Lin. Man, Jackson is like this massive, I love meathead guy. I like a truck. I love how his fighting style is like freestyle trucker, like freestyle redneck trucker fighting style. When he gets in his first fight, he goes no defense, no blocks, and just takes all base damage, and then just dusts the guy with one massive haymaker. Most entertaining guy I've ever seen in a fighting tournament.
He is hilarious. His character is played by Donald Gibb. And this guy has quite an incredible resume, folks. Something I know Ross will be interested in. And I didn't know this. He even was in OG Conan the Barbarian as Osric's guard. And I was like, well, I thought, oh man, that's fire. Now, his character plays the part of some comedic relief as well, a bit of morale boosting. That's continued further in Bloodsport 2, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Joining character from the original film to appear in the sequel. I think there's about 3 sequels. Last one, I think, was the Dark Kumite. But he's a very interesting character, right from where he's first introduced, where we see Van Damme sat on the bus, traveling through the streets of Hong Kong. Jackson gets on, and his first interaction with one of the locals. I mean, it's cringe, but you cannot laugh. It's just, I mean, it is playing the stereotypical kind of arrogant Westerner, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's hilarious.
It is.
It's so funny, and you're right. His style is pretty much just stand there, suck up all damage, and just like one massive haymaker. Slip mentioned American Samurai, which someone did ask me to cover that a long time ago, which I haven't forgotten. Maybe me and Ross can do that for you one week. There's a character in American Samurai that is pretty much Ray Jackson. Similar build, and the way he fights, he kind of, spoiler alert here, kind of has this swagger whilst there's this like huge hunting knife, I guess. And he often just tries like one massive haymaker or strike after being hit 20 times, and that's it. Yeah. I mean, we've seen it in all these kind of deathmatch movies. But it doesn't get old. It's hilarious. You can't, because there's all these other guys who are, who are trained in some discipline. Oh, numerous. And then you always get like the one big giant guy who's just
the American guy is always like the redneck trucker, you know what I mean? Like
but I think what I liked about Donald Gibbs' performance though is they do build that camaraderie, that brothership, the way they're playing the video games, the fighting game, and
that was cool.
That was really cool. That was interesting. So they get that bond very, very quickly, which is unified in a very it's kind of cheesy, but it really does make the film when we get there. That end sequence between Dux and Ray in the hospital we'll get to. She's a great.
I like the rivalry. Between the Americans and Chong Li. That arcade sequence was cool. It was very 80s throwback arcade days. Like gave vibes to how me and Gaz grew up in the arcades playing fighting games with the homies. After arriving in Hong Kong, Dukes befriends, did I already say this? When they arrive at the Kumite Arena, the officials are skeptical, but eventually accept him after Dukes proves his connection to the Tanaka clan by forming the Dim Mak Death Punch. Everyone has seen this GIF on every platform, but that's the one open hand through the pile of bricks, you know what I mean? And then later on, Jackson has his own... has his own brick sequence. He gives the guy like the crumbling brick, the crumbling pieces of brick, like, oh, that's for you.
But but doesn't that set it sets those memorable scenes straight away in your head, man, when the film starts, because when Frank and Ray are being taken to the undisclosed location of the Kumite, and there's the guy outside. It's going to be full of spoilers, guys, so apologies here. And the guy outside says, "Okay, USA," and takes him in, and then and he's asked to demonstrate the death touch on the bricks. It's cool the way they introduced the villain as well. Bolo Young's Chong Li. Jackson taps Frank and alludes to Chong Li stood there, who gives him the warning, something like, what was it? Good, very, very good, very nice, good, something like that. But brick do not hit back.
Yeah.
As cheesy as it is, but it sets up that instant rivalry straight away.
Real quick, because you brought up Enter the Dragon earlier. Is that like when the dude punches the board, and I believe that's Enter the Dragon, right?
And he says,
don't hit back. So there's seemingly a bunch of parallels between the fight tournament and which is like Enter the Dragon is like essentially a martial arts subgenre, right? Of like all those tournament films, this Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, if you think about it, man, we were talking about this off air. Bruce Lee's Game of Death was arguably, and if some people know different, please let us know, folks. But Bruce Lee's Game of Death was probably one of the first films that showed kind of like different styles versus different styles. And he had a bit of that in Enter the Dragon. And then, of course, Bloodsport takes this further, and there's many
becomes a trend, like the Protector does it,
kind of comes like a genre, doesn't it?
100%. The new school neo martial arts films. Shout out to Greg. He couldn't be here today because of the holiday weekend, but he wants to do Game of Death with us, and he also wants to do Showdown with Little Tokyo, because I know you've mentioned it a couple times.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I'm a Dolph Brandon Lee fanboy, you guys should know. So where were we there before I derailed, guys? On the first day of the tournament, Dukes earns the enmity of the ruthless Kumite champion Chong Li after breaking his record for the fastest knockout. Helmer and Rollins arrive in Hong Kong and contact local police inspector Chen. They begin asking around for Dukes and track him down to his hotel. A chase through the downtown ensues, but Dukes evades them when they fall into a canal. I mean, okay, when it starts, okay, so we can talk about like the Hong Kong backdrop, like Gaz was saying, like it's just like such a sick city. I've always wanted to go there my whole life. You know what I mean? I'm going to try to make it happen, these upcoming years. Me and Gaz will see what we could do with some on the road, content for you guys. But maybe hit up some dojos or something and just shoot some whatever we can find. But so it reminded me of that Joker chase in Joker 1 when when the cops were like chasing him down the street and stuff, just because it's like grimy like 80s like streets, and then like becomes when they run across the boats like the obviously Rawlings and whatever his name was, Helmer, fell in the water, like just like like Pixie said about the comedy elements, like we're such a violent film where there's so many like violent like combat sequences and people dying, and then just spliced in with like Jackson and the comedic elements, like Gaz was saying, like it really does throw you back to like the stuff that we were reviewing before, like the Akira Kurosawa stuff, and these like violent films that are balanced with like the comedy. Like that really feels like that's the grindhouse element, because what is really funny about a tournament to the death where Chong Li's killing all his opponents?
yeah, exactly. I think that they have to put. I think they put a little bit of that in just to, great line, Pixie. So they put a bit of that lightheartedness. And I remember when we talked to John Hyams years ago on our old show, and we were talking about one of the, his Universal Soldier movie film. And we were mentioning there was a comedic line in that, and he was kind of saying the same thing. You have to have, even though it's a very violent film, you have to put a little bit of that in just to, I guess, give the viewers a little something light just to here and there.
Break up the pace.
But I've always found things like that amusing, even when it's unintentional. But I want to come at you with a fun fact. I might be a bit amped today, folks, if you haven't guessed. Yeah. Combat sports, martial arts, all that stuff. It's that kind of thing.
That's why I let Gaz drive this episode.
I might crash through being a bit too enthusiastic, so apologies in advance. But there's a friend of mine who's from Hong Kong originally, and one thing he always told me about this film, he said the line where it's the guy that's in charge of the North American fighters were introduced to him very early on. And he talks about there being an invisible border when you get so far in Hong Kong where you step over that and you're in mainland China. And my friend, he always said to me, that was actually true. He said, yeah, that was like that growing up there, from family he had and everything. So I always found that quite interesting, that regardless of the other things that we're obviously not going to touch, that people, mention regarding Frank Dukes in the film.
Yeah, I mean, this guy said it's still clearly a Hong Kong film. It's still clearly shot in Hong Kong. There's still clearly representation of multiple fighting styles from all over the world. So it's not total BS. It's just the Frank Dukes semi-autobiographical backstory of whether the question is that accurate or not. I think overall, people have brought into Jean-Claude's, his martial arts into question as well. Like, I think JC would beat the brakes off of 85% of you guys, but that's just
Well, there was a guy who challenged him, wasn't there? I think it was at somewhere in conference who tried to get really cocky and. Van Damme, from what I've heard, put this guy in this place, and this guy learned that he's actually legit.
Yeah, no, I mean Van Damme actually, his fights are on record. I just want to say, Slippy said Universal Soldier is one of my favorite films ever. I'm going to put that on the PXF Classics for you, because me and Mac couldn't be more obsessed with that movie and a franchise. And we've spoken to John Hyams quite a few times. I'll shoot you guys the link. It's on the old channel, which is Planet X Records. But you could search for Planet X Records, John Hyams interview.
All these action films, whether it's like combat sports related or straight up action films, folks, that we love all that stuff as well. So you've got any recommendations, just drop them, and we'll be on them all day for you.
Damn right. Don't know where we left off in plot.
We were.
They fell in the river, right?
Yeah.
So in the canal, Duke soon becomes involved with American journalist Janice Kent, who is investigating the Kumite. Dukes refuses to help her, but she sneaks in the arena by agreeing to a date with a spectator. On the second day, Jackson's matched against Chong Li, the one of the big fight. So Jackson works his way up to the big boss. Although Jackson comes close to defeating Lee, he wastes time showboating for the crowd, allowing Lee to recover and brutally beat him. Duke said, and I was telling Gaz, like, I haven't seen Bloodsport in years. I had totally forgotten that Jackson survived. I thought that Chong Li killed him, but it's pretty sick that Jackson survived. Dukes visits Jackson in the hospital and vows to avenge him after witnessing the brutality of the tournament. Kent argues with Dukes and tries to convince him not to return. Dukes tells her that he has to win in order to become the best he can be. When Dukes arrives at the Kumite, Helmer and Rollins are waiting for him, along with Chen and 4 of his officers. Dukes defeats them and agrees to return with Helmer and Rollins after the tournament. I definitely want to talk about that scene, guys. We could break it down a little bit. This scene's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, so this is this is just before the chase, isn't it?
I believe it's after, because it's when he's going back to the arena and they try to trap him with Chen.
Oh yes,
and it's like the tasers and all that crap.
Yeah. So this is before the creepy guy who's laughing in. Is this with the creepy guy who's laughing in the sideway?
Yeah, I believe so.
Alleyway,
yeah. And it's like the tight alleyway, which I think that might be walled city or whatever. But they
Kowloon Walled City, I think it is.
1993. But I think this is like one of the last movies to film there, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting. That film we were going to look at is set, I think, in that walled city.
Yeah. It's a Twilight of the Warriors. Walled actually sick.
Yeah.
Who did have in there?
That's another one on the list. So yeah, the whole way this is shot, I mean, from the camera angle, it's purposely shot to make it look very sinister and imposing with the lack of lighting. You know, this is a sinister, seedy place. Frank Dukes is walking along with his training bag. There's like a creepy guy randomly laughing at the side, sounds like whatever. And then you see Forrest Whitaker and basically 2 guys from the US military stood there with Inspector. If I was professional, I'd remember the name and look at my notes. I'm Inspector Cheng. Yes, thank you, Ross. So this is at the end. And they're pretty much, you know, Frank says, right, you guys here for the finals, and they imply, right, the finals is over for you. And then there's some of the Hong Kong cops appear from the sideways, and Frank strikes them very, very well as a very good sidekick that Van Damme does, where he literally knocks the guy backwards and the gate conveniently shuts as well. That made me giggle. So just the way
you know what? It was subconscious for me, but now that you pointed out,
dude, it was when he did the sidekick and then the gate shuts as well. It's also like guys putting the in the box. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And there's another guy who's gets taken out, and then when he gets to the end of the corridor and the threaten to take him back using the tasers again, Van Damme gets like a trash can lid, and so the tasers bounce back, hits some of the Hong Kong cops, and it's just like the Forrest Whitaker and the other guy from the US military just like, yeah, we can't take this guy back, so we might as well just go and watch, just go along with him to watch the finals.
Yeah, like that's what me and Gaz were saying. Like, what kind of military command police work is this? It's like, hey, I just beat the crap out of all these like Chinese policemen, and you guys couldn't take me in. And oh, by the way, I'll turn myself in tomorrow when I've done the tournament. It's like,
I mean, if you wanted to get ultra picky, Ross, I mean, then it was British overseas territory at that time. And, you know, the US and the UK would have definitely worked together. There'd be more armed guards and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
guy in, but of course we have to suspend some belief there because it's it's a movie
for a defected U.S. military member entering an illegal martial arts tournament like to the death. Like that's not going to reflect back on whatever wing of the military is anyway. So almost Kurosawa-esque. I really like the almost first person camera angle that Gaz was referring to. It kind of like gives you that like Frank's perspective of like walking down the tight claustrophobic alleyway, as Gaz was saying. Of course, the taser gag, absolutely hilarious, pulling the trash can top and deflecting it into the other guys and then dropping them. Then he takes Rollins and Helmer's tasers and flicks them on them. Like, first of all, let's talk about those tasers. They look like the freaking photon rays from Star Trek, the original. You know what I mean? Like, they're absolutely massive, just ridiculous.
I mean, this was done from Canon Films as well, who are well known for releasing a lot of those. And I don't mean this in a detrimental sense, folks, but cheesy action movies from the 80s up into the 90s, American Ninja series, Invasion USA, Pixie, we haven't forgotten, from Canon, this as well. And that made me giggle, man, as well, the size of them. And just even that chase scene before this was hilarious, when they falling in the water and Van Damme's just like, Frank Dukes is just looking back and got everybody laughing. That's absolutely great. After this, though, when what I was amusing as well, I mean, we'll get into talking about the fights as well, folks, but when we see Rawlings sat watching and Helmer did you notice, Ross, they've got kind of that reluctance, and then towards, especially when you get to the final as it progresses, they're like turning into massive fanboys. You're like, yeah, come on.
Yeah, that was okay. So that's what me and guys were saying. So he says like, I'll turn myself in tomorrow. So they go to the tournament and watch as spectators. Like, what? Like, if you're gonna go there anyway, why would you? You know what I mean? Anyway, But friggin' no, it's coming, Pixie. End of June, we got it locked in. May is booking up pretty fast. Maybe we'll give you guys a couple Easter eggs. So let's see what they had to say about that. Where was that? Although, okay, so the Jackson thing. Oh no, we already did that. Okay, yeah. Dukes arrives at Kumite, Helmer and Rollins waiting on him. Chen, Forbes officers. He defeats him, agrees to return after the tournament. On the final day, Lee kills his semifinal opponent, much to the consternation of the crowd. Fearing defeat in the final against Dukes, Lee conceals a salt pill in his waistband before the bout. Let's talk about that, because it was maybe the most homoerotic scene. I thought it was a performance enhancer, but his assistant was putting it down his pants. I'm like, okay, I mean, that's one place to hide the that's one place to hide it, you know what I mean? We haven't talked about the absolutely buns soundtrack up until now. Other than the theme song, there's just some absolutely brutal soundtrack.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, we definitely would go over some of the fights as well.
Thank you, Darkside.
Thank you, Dark. The soundtrack for Shu links to some of the films. That scene where that was put down. Well, let's say it was kept secure, considering all of the movement that. Chong Li had.
How did that? Yeah, where was the secret compartment that of a dude that just come on?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if there was some kind of unknown technique to us where it was being utilized to keep that secure, man, for sure. But that whole thing was hilarious. But I know there's one thing that always struck me as well. I know it's an underground fight tournament, but when the guy just throw a spoiler alert, folks, I realize we're kind of out of order here with the fights, but no matter. When he throws the powder to blind Frank, even though it's underground fighting tournament, wouldn't that technically have got him kind of disqualified? Or is thinking the film, right, it's just happened, it's too late, we're just going to go with this? Because I always wondered that. I thought,
it's a foreign object, 100%. But I guess because he killed that other guy in the semifinal, it was an unnecessary kill, right? So he was already breaking, I think, tournament rules. But I guess what you're supposed to go with is, for suspension of belief as a viewer, is that in the fight that he was able to break it up and throw it so fast that it was fast enough that you couldn't see the powder hit Frank's eyes. So it's just like something that happened in the ring that the crowd may have not actually caught, you know?
Did you, before we go over some of the other fights as well and other fun facts, just from the kind of camera angle things, and did you like some of the angles that they shot on the fights, and also kind of what they did with a lot of those action movies, something that they do very comedically bad in OG Kickboxing, you know, where they replay one strike to make it look like three, or there's that scene where there's Van Damme's fighting Tong Po in OG Kickboxer, and it kind of does like this double strike, and it's almost in like slow motion of the guy arriving at his torso. And we see that with Van Damme's signature helicopter kick on this, the repeated hook kicks that are being shown both front and spinning. That made me giggle, but I think it was also used back then as well, just to showcase the techniques these guys could do and what they were doing, so people could see them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at this being like one of the, I guess, higher budget for the time, 1.5 to, 2.5 million, kind of bringing, it kind of revived, American, ninjutsu action films, and at least in the West. I mean, I'm sure it did the same for you guys, but obviously it was like a big market over here. And then Van Damme having a big European fan base as well. But yeah, like you said, the bicycle spin kick sequence, I think that was on Bolo, right? Van Damme fighting the jacked guy. That's the Johnny Cage split punch, of course.
Or the groin punch.
Yeah. Of course, we'll talk about that. Yeah, it's the Johnny Cage fatality. We'll talk about the Mortal Kombat influence on Van Damme and stuff. But there's the capoeira guy. So Frank fights the kickboxer early on, and they just go kick for kick with the body kicks. Remember that one? So that's another one as Frank was coming up the ranks. A lot of good sequences. I mean, maybe some overuse of slow-mo, but like Gaz said, it was 88, so what kind of work it was. But obviously the crown jewel is the Frank Dukes Bolo Chong Li fight, which is absolutely ridiculous and awesome and hilarious.
Yeah, there's when we get to the end of the review, folks, I've got some fun facts to share with you on some of the cast. I mean, some real fighters that were involved in the film as well. But wait till we get to the. I also liked the guy. Oh man, I think it Van Damme. Was it Frank's semi-final match? The huge tall guy who like points him like that. His hand shaking, goes like that, and Frank's like hits him more or less once, and then that was good.
He just laced him with a kick. Yeah, dude. The flexes before the fights were funny. I mean, every guy had to do the peck thing. Of course, shirtless. You know what I mean? Toxic masculinity throughout the tournament. But
how dare we have that in an action film?
Yeah, the tall guy got absolutely dusted. One kid was more of a kickboxing set. Well, it's funny because like Van Damme is clearly a Muay Thai trained kickboxer, right? But for the first beginning montage, he's training like Tanaka is obviously Japanese ninjutsu, right? So, and when did Frank use ninjutsu? I don't think he used ninjutsu in one of these fights, but anyway, it's just a general martial arts thing, introducing it to the mainstream, like Gaz was saying. It doesn't necessarily need to be style accurate. Final fight. Okay, so we didn't. So when Chong Li beat Jackson. Jackson celebrated early. Chong Li got back up, hit him, dropped him. He took his bandana, and then when Chong Li comes out to fight Frank, he puts the Jackson bandana around his right leg because he has the strong right kick. So we didn't mention that. So just some crazy slow mo. It's like obviously crazy, fight montages of some technical moves, like Gaz was saying. When Dukes gets the other hand, Lee blinds him by crushing the pill and throwing it in Dukes' face, like Gaz was saying. Initially frustrated by his inability to see, Dukes clears his mind and recalls his training from Tanaka, who taught him to fight blindfolded, overcoming the handicap and defeating Lee by making him utter the phrase "mate." The next day, he bids farewell to Kent and whatever. We can talk about that ending scene, but. The montage of him clearing his mind, going back to training with Tanaka and the blind training. Obviously, like we all knew that was coming, but you know what? Like Gaz and I always say this, for 88, the way that they did the blur effect on his vision of him looking at the crowd and like back and forth, it was well done. I thought, you know what I mean? It's still held up today as other movies look extremely outdated. You know what I mean? I think this still works from what I could tell.
Yeah, considering although this is probably one of the higher budget canon films, it was still didn't have as big a budget as as many people would maybe assume. Mate. Yeah, I thought that was well done. The way they get the kind of panoramic view as well, and we all know it's coming in. Yes, it's look. The whole movie has a cheesy feel like any of this, but it's entertaining. It really
Yeah,
is, and you
really is.
can't help you can't help fall in love with these movies either.
You can.
There's comedic elements. It gets you rooting for the protagonist. I mean, yeah, I mean, you could argue repeating. Oh man, who am I? The part where they're repeating his front hook kick 3 times as Chong Li's going backwards. Or probably one. She wouldn't have got away with doing it more than that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of areas in the film that were ahead of its time, actually, as you just pointed out, Ross.
When Chong Li's behind him and he does that high left kick, like shin to the forehead, and it's like it could have been anyone's leg. It did, you know what I mean? Like the way they shot the angle, the leg just comes up
like a mannequin leg,
just claps the guy like it's like a practical effect prop. Absolutely hilarious. And then,
I did. Sorry, go on.
No,
I thought it was cool where he gets the referee shielding him in front of him to protect him from Chong Li. But then you would think when they felt, and I wondered if they maybe shot it like this originally, that he would keep him behind him just in case he, got in front of him again or Chong Li pushed him. And then he puts him to the corner and then moves to the other side of the oh man, my mind's escaped me. The platform that they're fighting on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that was pretty cool. Yeah, someone's maybe looking for that mannequin leg to this day, Dark. It might not be in great condition, but maybe someone wants it back.
There's some breaking the rules, as Gaz said, because like the refs in the tournament to the death, the Kumite, don't call Chong Li on anything. So when he takes the ref, well, I guess those guys are the judges technically. When he takes the ref and pushes him into Frank goes off of his shoulders and he goes off the ref and throws a jump kick. Like using the ref as like, you know what I mean, basically terrain. And then obviously when Frank is blinded, Chong Li pushes the ref into him, and then Frank takes him and puts him behind him once he starts focusing. You know what I mean? And then when he starts using his other senses for the rest of the fight, and he's kicking him blindly, he catches the hand and blocks him, and then he's kicking him blind. And when he starts using his balance and using the steps like that, like obviously the music picks up at that. It's like the blind fight sequence, for lack of a better phrase, is absolutely hilarious. Just the way he's listening to Chong Li's movement and responding with the blind fighting style.
As the music picks up there, do you think Stan Bush at that point was in the studio getting overamped, thinking, man, I'm going to lay down the next track for this album, got Kickboxer coming up a year later after that, man, I'm going to cruising down the streets of Siam.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is they were sending Stan Bush dailies and getting him hyped, like kind of how like Denise Villeneuve sends Hans Zimmer's dailies for Dune, you know what I mean? They gotta cook in the studio there, you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Pixie. I don't think anybody knows this. Any of the Bloodsport experts want to jump in here and weigh in with us, but we'd all love to know.
Yeah, it was cool how they really did. The music changed whenever Chong Li went on the attack as well, which was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Pretty cool to amplify kind of his villainous, I guess.
Yeah.
And that semi-final where he does unalive that guy. I have to say that with it being YouTube. Sorry, guys.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't alive that guy. And, they all turn their backs as, because the guys brought shame and dishonor to the tournament.
Yeah.
And Chong Li's makes a beeline for Frank, continue that animosity towards him. And I thought it was pretty cool the way they used the music. And whenever Chong Li, when he'd won a match, especially if he'd done an act of barbarity, I guess, the way he kind of just started getting so amped with his hands like Chong Li. That was quite cool. We're going to get into that slip at the end. We've got some real fun facts for you to do with the filming, various other films, the cast as well. So we'll cover that for sure.
Honestly, like Janice's character is kind of useless. Like that one point where she's recording notes at her tape recorder when she finally makes it into the Kumite. It's like if you're a journalist, are you going to take your tape recorder out of your pocket and record notes in front of everybody? Or are you going to like wait till the fight's over and go do that where no one can see? Like, it's obviously it's suspension of reality, guys, but who cares? Initially frustrated by his inability to see, Dukes clears his mind, recalls training from Tanaka, who taught him to fight blindfolded, overcoming the handicap, defeating Lee by making him utter the phrase "Mate." The next day, we said this. The next day, he bears farewell to Kent and returns to the U.S. with Helmers and Rollins. So yeah, they're waiting for him at the point. Well, obviously, you guys know what happens at the end of the fight. Frank finishes Chong Li, and he takes the Jackson bandana back. It's basically what happens because Jackson taunted him with it. I know Chong Li taunted Dukes with it when he beat Jackson. So yeah, like Gaz said, the cops were waiting at the plane, and they were like, "Oh, where is he?" Is the typical like dumb cop scene, and then Dukes popped out of the plane. And he was like, "Hey, you guys, you're always late. I'm right here. What are you guys waiting for? You're always late." Also, let's talk about how Frank Dukes, being an American and like having like one of the most European accents ever, he's like
very thick French Belgian accent. Yeah.
What part of the USA has an extremely thick French Belgian accent?
New Orleans French Quarter, but we've taken it up 1000%. Yeah.
He's about the most un-American. Like Jackson, sure, he certainly sounded American. Dukes, I don't know. Like what? Yeah, where's Belgium in this?
Where is it? Maybe on secondment from the French Foreign Legion at that time to the US Marine Corps, maybe doing a placement for a season.
I like it. Leave it to Gaz for the historical accuracy.
It's all I've got to go with, man.
I could do production, Gaz, and then you could do your stuff because there's not that much of it.
We'll do production, and then we're going to get into some fun facts, fire and Slip's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, we'll
take as well, which we're going to cover too.
And sequels and stuff. Co-writer Shelton Lettich came up with the idea for the film. According to Lettich, I had known Frank Dukes for a number of months before I came up with the idea for Bloodsport. Frank told me a lot of tall tales, which turned out to be BS, but his stories about participating in this so-called Kumite event sounded like a great idea for a movie. There was one guy who he introduced me to named Richard Bender, who claimed to have actually been to the Kumite and who swore everything Frank told me was true. A few years later, this guy had a falling out with Frank and confessed to me that everything he told me about the Kumite was a lie. Frank had coached him in what to say. On casting the lead role, producer Mark DeSalle said, "I wanted a new martial arts star who was a ladies' man. Jean-Claude appeals to both men and women. He's an American hero who fights for justice the American way and kicks the stuffing out of bad guys." And Pixie, if you ever see the film in full, you might start noticing some things about Jean-Claude's physique, and that's because at one sequence he did wear that Speedo when he was in bed with Kent, Gaz.
Oh, it should be Thurston. Yeah.
That was Gaz's favorite scene of the film.
Oh, it was. That was it. That's the whole reason I wanted to talk about it. Not the fight sequences, not getting into the fun facts. It was the
50 different martial arts.
It was that blatant advertisement there of how
Jean-Claude
Bruce can look so well on a man.
Look, come for the Bolo Young shirtless, but stay for the Jean-Claude, you know what I mean, loincloths sequence, you know what I mean? Anyway, PXF. Filming. Bloodsport was filmed entirely on location in Hong Kong during late 1986. Shooting began in October 17th, 86. It was the first American feature film made in Hong Kong. Since 1969. So yeah, I imagine whatever was in 69, Enter the Dragon, and maybe this. So there's probably only a handful, at least at the time, from 69 to 88. Promotional materials indicated that the Kumite, which Frank Dukes won in 75, was held in the Bahamas, but producers opted to set the story in Hong Kong because the city was exciting and not overexposed in American films. I was going to ask you guys if any of the sequels ever did anything for the Bahamas, because that would be a sick location for a fight tournament.
Bloodsport 2 set in Thailand. I might as well go into this now since you brought it up. Bloodsport 2 features Curtis Ray Jackson, just known as Ray Jackson in the sequel. He doesn't compete, but he's kind of just sat at the sidelines like he does in Bloodsport 1, apart from he obviously fights in Bloodsport 1. He provides some comedic relief and some morale boost, and he's the same character and he's hilarious. The protagonist in Bloodsport 2 and the next two sequels, because he goes up with Bloodsport 4, the Dark Kumite, is Daniel Bernhardt, who's a Swiss actor who, I guess, kind of similar to Van Damme, is still active to this day. in movies. The fights are pretty good, actually, folks. They do probably showcase more styles, even more than the original. There's a hilarious moment where, don't ask me what they were thinking, Russ. So Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid, peace be upon him, Pat Morita, right? And this is no lie. This is the plot. So bear with me, folks, on this train wreck that I'm going with, trying to keep some order. So Daniel Bernhardt is a thief in Bloodsport 2, and he's in a prison in Thailand, and I think he meets a local kind of Chinese master in prison who teaches him some techniques and puts him on the right path. Yeah, Pat Morita, Mr. Miyagi, just conveniently happens to be a local art dealer who manages to get him out of prison. Don't ask me why they went with that.
And then genius writing.
Because I think, if I remember right, the katana that we see is similar to what Frank is presented with at the end of Bloodsport 1. I think Daniel's character has stolen that in the sequel. So, of course, he gets put on the path to redemption, I guess. Did
they explain it, or are you just supposed to know that it's a similar looking one?
I can't remember because we haven't seen it for a long time. Maybe we could cover it just for the fact that Ray Jackson's in there. We could add it to it's the best of the sequels. 3 is forgettable. The Dark Kumite, sorry. But Daniel Bernhardt, fun fact for y'all, he was the guy in the TV series Mortal Kombat Conquest that got cancelled after 1 season. He's a pretty good martial artist. So yeah, I've rambled a bit here. Can you bring us back to some sense of
Yeah, I will. I'm just going to bring the crowd in because it's a good time for a transfer whenever you guys fall off. I went looking for a clip of the movie, and I saw that one that led me to this little video about Frank.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Steven Seagal. Okay, so Bloodsport is one of the few films featuring scenes inside Kowloon Walled City before its demolition in '93. Other locations included the Peninsula Hotel, Causeway Bay, Hong Kong Trail, Victoria Peak, and Stanley Fort. I mean, as Gaz said, if ever either of us are ever out to make it to Asia, maybe we could shoot a couple of those up, those film, Bloodsport filming locations or other, famous, martial arts film locations. That'd be a cool thing for us to look at. Soundtrack, Gaz's favorite part besides the Jean-Claude nude scene. Bloodsport's soundtrack score was composed by Paul Herzog, who had also composed a score for Jean-Claude Van Damme's next movie, Kickboxer, which, Gaz and I have talked about doing those on Mosh. For the movie Bloodsport, the songs "Fight to Survive" and "I'm on my own," Gaz's favorite jingle, R.I.P.
Oh, I can't get enough of that, man.
Singing voice were both performed by Stan Bush. Bush's performances are replaced on the soundtrack with alternate versions sung by Paul Delph. Due to his work, Delph was nominated for a Grammy. What? The Bloodsport song's got a Grammy? How's that a thing? How is that a thing? You want to react to that, guys, or are you broken up?
You know what, man? It's still better than A Night with Katy Perry, isn't it? I still would.
Oh, it's better than anything.
Suffering that, man. So
if there was one spaceship we need to explode, I mean, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Whoops, that might get me demonetized. The film plays the song "Steal by Night" by Michael Bishop during a scene where Dukes runs from Helmer and Rollins. The song was released mid-2000s. We'll skip the rest of that because we don't care about that. Bloodsport, home media. Bloodsport was released on VHS by Betamax by Warner Home December 21st, 88. Within months, it had sold 150,000 units. Warner also released a DVD on October 1, 02. Multiple Blu-ray versions. Blah, 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 blah. Box office, Jan 89. The Times reported a U.S. box office gross of 11.7 mil against a budget of 2.3 mil. In August 89, Chicago Tribune, a film pulled 50 million worldwide, including 15 million in the U.S., Canada, making it Canon Group's most profitable film of 88. You have to see if you can find us the UK numbers, guys, because all we ever see is U.S. and Canada. I'd be interested to know, especially if it does good in those markets. I assume it does well in the UK as well. Critical response, sequels, and possible remake. I know we're going to let Gaz be the bearer of bad news because he's our happy Brit. on the show. So I know you have an announcement at the end here, guys, but I'm going to cue it up for you with Bloodsport, regarded as a cult film.
Oh, now I've remembered.
Yeah. Now you know. Though JCVD doesn't appear in additional installments, it was followed by 3 sequels. The next Kumite, Bloodsport 3 and Bloodsport 4, The Dark Kumite, a remake of Blood. Okay, well, I'll say what this is, and then we'll have Gaz be the bearer of bad news. Well, a remake of Bloodsport was reported in 2011. Philip Nice was attached to direct a screenplay by Mark Kamen. The main character is supposed to be an American Afghanistan war vet competing in a Val Tudo tournament in Brazil. That's such, I mean, I'm sure it'd be cool, but Brazil is such a random location. Yeah, director James Mateague, who I think he's like, what? He's diehard in a bunch of crap. I think he's pretty legendary. So, yeah. Was attached to the project in 2013. It was supposed to be done in Australia and Brazil. As of 2023, it has not been produced. Let's just see what Mateague did real quick. V for Vendetta, Ninja Assassin, Raven, Survivor, Break-In.
Ninja Assassin's fire.
He's actually pretty fire, but I guess if he stepped away, it was probably because something became buns. Gaz, did you have something that you wanted to talk to the audience about? You had some like big Bloodsport news.
Yeah, I will go in that. Before we get there, I think I just want to drop some fun facts for them. So,
yeah, go for it.
Some of the fights in Bloodsport OG. So, forgive my butchering of characters' names here, but Swan Paredes, he's the guy that has the kind of capoeira Muay Thai hybrid style.
That was cool.
We see an early shot of him as the fighters are preparing to go to the tournament. We see him fighting on the beach. Now, here's a fun fact. He was played by Mike, and forgive me, folks, here, Michael Kissy. I don't know how you pronounce this. He is Van Damme's real-life childhood friend. You know, they went to the States together to break Hollywood. The interesting fun fact is he was Tong Po in the original Kickboxer.
Famous.
He's Moroccan-Belgian, trained in Shotokan, Muay Thai, kickboxing, and I think maybe another discipline as well. Bloodsport was their first major film together, so that's quite an interesting fun fact as well. Yeah, go on, Ross.
No, that didn't have much more. I mean, this is, as we said, this next part is your announcement, unless you want me to cue you up with a...
No, I'm going to drop another one for them. And then the guy who is the Muay Thai fighter, and he's when Van Damme meets him, they have the roundhouse kick trade-off where, you know, Van like there, come on, and it's just trading shot for shot.
Yeah, the butt kick for kick.
He stood out. That guy, his character, played by Paulo Trocha, who's half Portuguese, half Italian, grew up in South Africa. He stood out to me in the OG Bloodsport. Quite a functional fighter with his lower leg kicks. You know, he's doing his overhands as well. He was pretty good. Now, that guy's got quite a good pedigree. Boxer, he was a pro Muay Thai fighter. And he also, folks, was one of the first Westerners to fight in China and win as well. And he's part of, what's the federation? I know it's an American federation of Muay Thai, so he still does a lot to promote the sport and is involved in it. And his fight sequences did stand out to me in Bloodsport OG. And apparently he was in Predator 2 as well. And I'm wondering if he was one of the gangs we see in the early scene where where they're having that drug war in the streets. Yep. I'm sure he's one of the guys with the long dreads, maybe.
Jamaican warlords, drug lords, that part's fire.
So that was, quite interesting fun facts. And apparently the first shoot of Bloodsport was pretty bad, and I think Van Damme at the time was filming Kickboxer and flew back to help. Obviously do a better cut of it. And another fun fact for you all. I know I'm rambling, folks, bear with me, is on Paolo's character's shorts in Bloodsport, apparently that is referencing a famous Muay Thai training camp in Thailand, which he had advised, the actor Paolo had advised Van Damme to shoot a sequence there in Kickboxer OG as well. So I thought, oh man, that's a real... interesting fun fact. So there's quite a pedigree attached to this film. And another one that maybe me and Ross and Greg, if we'd be welcome to join us, is The Last Kumite, which is very much inspired by Bloodsport. That dropped last year. It's got a hell of a cast. You've heard me talk about it on past episodes on the show quite a lot. Bolo Young's son, David Young, is in that movie. And for those who are interested in these kind of fun facts, my delivery might not be that fun, but there's a series of films called Blood Fight. There's 6 of them, and they're kind of like knockoffs of Bloodsport, I guess. I think Bolo Young, is he the villain in the original? I think he might be the villain in that one. After, so that was quite fun to learn as well. So there's just some interesting facts for you. Before we drop this misery, do you want to talk about the Mortal Kombat influence?
Oh yeah. Let's see. Did we throw up Slippy's comment about Cage? Which word on the street is, I don't know if you're hearing the same thing as me, guys, but Carl Urban is playing Cage, and no, he's playing Kano in the new combat. So shout out to that. There's another rumor out that Mega City 1 is going forward at Netflix, guys, and Urban will return as Dredd. So I don't know if that's true, but we'll report it here for you guys when we get confirmation. Speaking of Johnny Cage's decision to entering the tournament and MK to prove himself is due to the press saying he's a fake. It parallels how you said earlier that some people doubted JCVD is a legit fighter. I mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme's like kickboxing, record is on record. So it's like well known the amount of wins he has. I believe it's in the 60s or 70s. The Mortal Kombat influence. So it's obviously Jean-Claude Van Damme on Cage, being Cage, the American actor that he wants to prove himself in the tournament. Mortal Kombat 1, which I think might have been one of the last releases. Mac, our boy Mac, is the Mortal Kombat expert here on the panel. Van Damme voiced Cage in Mortal Kombat 1. So he finally came full circle where Van Damme actually did his voice in one of the last games. So kind of like parallel universe crossover there. Obviously the significance is obvious, right? Mortal Kombat is a death tournament of all the martial arts fighters. Bloodsport is essentially a death tournament. So a lot of Bloodsport influence on Mortal Kombat with the tournament backdrop and the Cage character. I think that's basically it, guys. Do you want to enlighten us with some British your positive?
So you want me to be the eternal tower of misery that you have known for years?
I do want you to do it, but I'm going to cue it up for you. All right, A24. We love you guys. Like clearly they I haven't seen all the A24 horror movies, but I've seen a few of them. Civil War had its moments. It definitely had like some good actors in it. Warfare, I think that's the new trailer, right? Warfare looks pretty sick.
That just dropped this week. That's supposed to be all right.
I want to check out Warfare when I get around to it. That being said, A24, A2, I feel like a broken record right now. A24, what are you guys doing? If you don't want to be A2 Bore, Gaz and I unfortunately saw an article that said, drum roll, Gaz, get ready. You better put your stream on mute, Pixie. Get ready, guys. Say it.
I feel like this is the Crow revisited. They are trying to get greenlit for a remake of Bloodsport. I'm just
Bloodsport, the P-make.
There's some people who'd say, yeah, this brings in a new generation, blah, 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 who might not know who these people are, blah, 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 blah. I'm just tired of the whole thing. I'm just like, if you want to make that kind of movie, then just make one. Does it have to be a remake of Bloodsport? Would it be a new character, or would it be Frank Deuce? Considering, and I'm not going to steer us into getting into, look, was his fighting record legit or not? But thanks, Pixie.
Worthy. I can understand it. it.
Yeah.
That one's fair. That one was fair.
I'd take the hit. I mean, why couldn't they just done? They could have done their own idea if they want to do like a brutal, like you said. They could have said the Veil Tudo, which is supposed to be brutal in Brazil. They could have done that without it being Bloodsport. I thought, why would you have to have another remake? And this could potentially ruin something that is a classic. If I get I suppose, introducing people to it, wanting to bring in a new generation and everything, but you could just show them the original movie. It's like on TV pretty much all the time as well. So that's my kind of take with it. Like they did with The Crow, you know, I felt it should have been left alone. Or like you said, I know The Crow's a different thing. You could have done a different iteration of The Crow.
Yeah, not
like, this has already had 3 sequels to Bloodsport. Are they going for... trying to put this politely, I guess, a reimagining, when I say we loosely base it on the original and then put with some new elements. I'm not...
They do like re-inspired.
Yeah, I'm not going to totally get down on it too far, because apparently that Maxine film that I was chatting to you about the other day is supposed to be pretty good, and that was part of a trilogy. So I'm not saying everything they do would be bad. I just feel this maybe should be left alone. It's unnecessary. If they want to make this kind of movie, then fine, do one, but come up with a different story. That about a war veteran, then What Up Mysteries, fighting in some kind of underground tournament. Yeah, that could be pretty cool if you flushed it out.
I wouldn't expect this from A24, because I thought their big thing was like original stuff that they write and produce themselves. They don't really seem like a remake studio unless they're changing their direction. I mean, I thought their thing was like original in-house work. I mean, obviously Garland, right? He's the one who did Civil War, and that was his last movie directing, but he's also the writer of 28 Years Later, which I definitely do want to see when it drops. So, I mean, I like the direction all that stuff's going in. This is probably not so Jean-Claude's son acts, and I think his daughter acts as well. And I think of the two of them, I think the daughter is the martial artist. So do you get one of them and try to, you know, like what you were saying about was it Dudikoff, you know, his daughter? So do you do something like that? I like the direction that the Kickboxer sequels are going, which I think the last one was Armageddon, where it had like Scott Adkins, Dave Bautista, and it wasn't too and I think did that one have Van Damme? I believe he cameoed in one of them. It wasn't too like bitey off Kickboxer 1, like Gaz was saying, you know what I mean? So kind of, and I do think when Gaz is done with Best of the Best and the franchises he's doing now, we should definitely do Kickboxer over there on Mosh. But yeah, I mean, you guys know how we feel about unnecessary P makes. I mean, I'm interested in the Toxic Avenger just to see where it goes, but outside of that, and there is a new trailer for that you guys should check out. Outside of that, I don't know. Mr. B, what up, G?
I just feel like the same as you, man, that it's unnecessary. They already did 3 sequels, so
right.
Arguably,
and you have the last Kumite, which is like the inspired with all their
which is kind of a love letter to it. I mean, Stan Bush is even on the soundtrack for that. Right. I know you'll be thrilled about that. They could have. I can't believe I'm going to say that. You could have actually, I guess. Instead of remaking it, we could have done like a Bloodsport 5, I guess. Kind of like you were saying, you know, what they're doing with Kickboxer, where Van Damme is the trainer, and it kind of flows well, like the way they're setting up the new movie, because Van Damme made another kind of Bloodsport movie, and again, the actor Michael, and forgive my pronunciation here, folks, might be pronounced Michel Cassinen. He is the villain in that movie. He kind of plays this great big Mongolian dude with like Mongolian wrestler, actually, Ross. And that's called The Quest. Had Roger Moore in it, 96 movie, and it's awesome. It's pretty much Bloodsport, bro. It's like set in the 30s or something like that. It's got all like different fighting styles. There's a bare knuckle boxer in it. James Remar's in the movie as well.
The muscles from Brussels.
Yeah. So yeah, I just feel it's unnecessary. I mean, the guy you mentioned, some of the films that he's the potential director, I think it is, and you mentioned Ninja Assassin, which is a sick movie. That's Michael, awesome movie.
McTeague, I think it was. I mean, I think me and Gaz are both on the same page. You just don't do it, because Bloodsport, it's like basically, you know, you could say it's derivative of Enter the Dragon, sure, but it's all the same type of subgenre, like we're saying. But Bloodsport is really the influence of Mortal Kombat. Also, what I would take, Gaz, is like a real Mortal Kombat movie with actual martial artists in it, because it's always overproduced and CGI. Like if we had like this dudes that could fight, you could probably take a lot of the Bloodsport grindhouse action sequence influence and be like, okay, they're going to have the costumes and the, you know, the done up, the whole Mortal Kombat thing, but have some dudes that can really pull, you know, get a Scott Atkins to play, you know, one of the ninjas or something, you know, get in and have it be
Eco and Donnie Yen involved, man.
There you go. See, the Gaz gets it. Like, I did hear some things about Street Fighter, and I think possibly casting Ken and possibly casting Ryu, and it sounded like they want to actually take some guys who can fight for that. So we'd have to see, you know, Street Fighter versus MK, which one of them can actually make a you know, a realistic fight movie, or can any of them, because we've never seen it.
See, me and Mac have talked about that for years, using real fighters, real martial artists in a Mortal Kombat movie, just how much sicker it would be. And from what I've heard is Mortal Kombat 2 on the film side, not the martial arts side, on the film side, apparently it's going to be more of a course corrector. They're aware that the first one wasn't that great. Arguably, the first 10 minutes and last 10 minutes of the movie of Mortal Kombat 1, I guess, not the game, you know, the reboot, I suppose. So hearing this, I'm like, I hope it's not just, yeah, we're aware it's a turd, so we're going to make some false promises. Yes, that'd be good, because no one's going to come out and say, look, our movie sucks. Because, like, yeah, I mean,
Snow White might have to, but
yeah. But literally, look, it's
outside of Disney, and Gaz and I have our own creative term for Disney.
Yeah. But it would be sick if they did that. They recently, it wasn't terrible, guys. Michael Madsen's in it. Eric Roberts is in it. There's a movie called Arena Wars, which is set in the future, where it is kind of like a bit of a cross between Bloodsport and American Samurai. They take fighters from various eras of history. It could be a cop, it could be a soldier, a Viking or something, and they put them in the arena, and then they have to pretty much fight. Just think, because it's YouTube. Fight for the outcome to be unalive. And it's not bad, but you can see where Bloodsport's had this influence and pretty much kind of created a genre within combat movies for that, just like, you know, the Hunt films you were talking about. Pixie, you've got us. I've got posters and everything. I've got a poster just on that scene, you know, with the brief scene and that.
Got a screen grab, and then he printed it out on projector.
Yeah,
it's on the other side that's facing his computer, though. So
that's why I get distracted. That's why I get distracted and go off on rambles, because it's replaying in my mind all the time. It's like
it's what he's looking at when he's doing the show, in case he gets off.
It's my whole reason for learning to train, not to defend myself. It was like I want to see something like that.
That'll probably do it for today's episode, lads and lasses. Nothing like going out on a high here at PXF. Next week, Havoc, Tom Hardy, directed by Gareth Evans, new Netflix drop. Like we said, the new Toxic Avenger trailer's out. Gaz and I might go to the Whack Accountant Pooh, aka the Accountant 2. Definitely a Bernthal fan. I haven't watched the Daredevil Board Again crap finale yet, but I will. I will definitely watch it. So. But yeah, sub Mashinobi, sub here, like, sub, share. Click the join button for a membership. There is going to be some new exclusives on Patreon. I'm going to do the red circle over there, and then Gaz and I will probably do Avenging. You know, I might cover Avenging Force on there, and then me and Gaz will hit it for a review as well. If you guys want, we could give you a couple drops of course, suggestions. I'm going to definitely get Universal Soldier 1 in there for you, Slippy.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll pull the so Gaz and I were thinking about doing Machete 1 for Cinco de Mayo. I think I'm going to be out traveling, working on a film project the week after that. But then we have a special guest joining us for Roadhouse OG. You guys should know who that is. Google it's a Saturday night thing, short film on YouTube. I had Ran for the 24th, but I think maybe we could switch it to either like Sinners or Whack Accountant Pooh. And then we have Conan the Barbarian. But no, that's what it was. The weekend I had Ran, we might change that to Top Gun for Rest in Peace Val Kilmer, or some other Val movie. So I was thinking for Memorial Day we should do something for Val. So get your votes. Do you want another Kurosawa Rand, or do you want us to do something for Val Kilmer, Rest in Peace? Happy Easter, guys. Appreciate everybody that came through, holding us down. Pixie, appreciate it. In the chat, you can go over sub free on the Gmail, on the Patreon. Shout out Slippy, Pixie, Darkside, Mr. B, Jeff. Don't know who else might have came through that I might have missed. But
what if we had on the Patreon, maybe get some briefs like those in Bloodsport? And, you know,
I'll do a photo shoot, but I can do a Frank Jukes photo shoot just in the loincloth, only on my Patreon. So if you want, there's 2 levels of memberships on the Patreon. If you want to see content that'll make you go blind, such as Gaz described, you can head over there and get either a gorilla and or like how are we able, the fact that we can straight face something at this point is like of this day. All right. We're out.
It's got the Stan Bush and a soundtrack of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it'll be like a motion GIF with me just doing the Bloodsport pec
full montage.
Okay, I think that'll do it for the. I don't know how much the last 10 minutes of that had to actually do with Bloodsport. Sorry about everyone's eyes and ears, but and more important, your third eye. Yeah, no, Gaz's channel gets a good. You have to pop over there and see what's going on, Gazzy, because you get good responses on the martial arts. You probably just lost all your ninja fans from what I just said.
Yeah, 20 minutes. I just want to say to the folks on there, because folks have been wondering where the martial arts side is. Honestly, we have been that busy with things on PXF. That's why we haven't put stuff on Mosh Shinobi recently, other than when we do the dual streams, when we do something that can fit. Roadhouse OG will definitely, that can go on Mosh Shinobi as well. Yep. So if you want to, we're on here every week, folks, on PXF. So you're welcome to subscribe over at PXF as well and catch me and Ross. It's literally, we're just doing so many things behind the scenes, and but we still, when able, we put things on Mosh Shinobi when we can. We haven't forgotten about it.
And like we said, Gaz and I have plans to do, the Kickboxer franchise, maybe the Ninja movies, the Scott Adkins. There's a few new Scott Adkins things we missed. Obviously, expect Striking Rescue to get on there. Island of Dr. Moreau is sick. I don't know. I think that's a semi-remake, that 90s one that I grew up with. That was Kilmer, right? Yeah, that's why you brought it up, right? That was Kilmer. Yeah. You've seen that, right, Gaz?
Yeah, not for a long time. Well, that would be a different one. We could cover that because most people would probably.
And the doctor was it Brando? It was I think it was some famous actor like that. It was either Brando or
because Slips just said Kilmer and Brando. Man, that's fire.
Dude, I can't believe it's Brando. I love it. Brando's my favorite actor. All right, guys, Bloodsport 1988. Watch it free on Tubi. It might be on YouTube. I don't know. Like, sub, share, click join for a membership. Head over to the Patreon if you want to see me and my skivvies doing my Frank Duke splits. Like when he was doing the splits on the chairs, and Jackson was like, "Hey, you might want to have kids."
Yeah, that hurts. Dude, that whole scene. We forgot that whole scene where he walks through the door and he says, "That just hurts me looking at it." He says, "Dude, you might want to have kids one day." I mean, it's things like that make the movie as well. Those comedic elements, because you remember them, you remember the lines. Yeah. Like when we've talked about, even other action movies as well. So many, man. So yeah, I love that. That was. Oh, and the other scene. I've got to say this. We forgot to cover this. So sorry, folks. Bonus scene for you. The part where you're introduced to the journalist character. They're at the bar. And I think that is Michael Kissie's character, and you get that flashback to Van Damme's, Frank Deuce's training where he was being taught how to grab the fish out of the water.
Yeah, that was sick.
And he says, "Right, you can have the reporter for the night. If I can, take this coin out of your hands." If I grabbed it, and that whole dialogue back, the way it's like, stupid American, and I'm.
Yeah, the dubbing is crazy in this film.
So that was another scene. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming through on both channels, and we are back next week. And any suggestions, just let us know what you would like us to cover, folks.
Unisaw 1, Top Gun 1, Havoc, where Gaz and I are going to try to get Striking Rescue scheduled. So put ideas in the chat or put them below in the comments. PXF, like, sub, share, go sub to Mosh Shinobi. Check out the Bloodsport trailer. If you want something really funny after you watch it, check out the Honest trailer of Bloodsport. Absolutely hilarious. Love that channel. Love those guys. Shout out to Screen Rant. No affiliation with them, just big fans of their channel. All right, guys, we're out. Next week, join us for Havoc with Tom Hardy. It's supposed to be crazy.
Yeah, fire.
We're out.